The Fire King deck is meta in the OCG right now, and not just like part of the meta, it is meta. There's other decks, but the deck is really strong. And so I want to look at the cards today. I want to learn some of the combos and see what it can do. The only thing is that, of course, the OCG metagame is different than our metagame in multiple ways. One big deal is, of course, Maxi existing, but the other thing is that they have a couple cards already that help out the Fire King deck a lot. That is Bonfire and the new Snake Eye from Phantom Nightmare, the Fire Link monster, the princess that we already have in Master Duel. So there's a couple things that we don't have yet, but I still think the cards are worth taking a look at and maybe giving it a shot. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the cards, understand how the deck is going to function, and then we're going to try to build a version for the current TCG format. Whether that's possible or not, we're going to find out, right? It could be that the deck just doesn't do enough without the cards from Phantom Nightmare. If that's the case, then we're going to also find that out today. But I think that's going to be helpful for YCS Bologna, right? I went to Road to the King this morning. I opened the very first tournament, and literally it was a almost 500 player tournament, and the first 3 spots were all Fire King decks. So just for context of why I am interested in this deck and why I want to know how good it's going to be for us is because it is currently clapping up the OCG, right? This is all the new Fire King cards. Sacred Fire King Garunix, which is the cover card, I believe, the level 8 ultra rare. When I read this thing for the first time, I remember now, a couple weeks ago, I was wondering, this card is pretty good. Why is the OCG only playing 1 copy? The reason for that, I think, is because the way it's worded, you can just add it with Fire King Island and immediately summon it. You don't actually need to draw it, right? Because the way it's worded, it says you can special summon this card from the grave if it was there, or hand if it was not there, right? So what you can do is you can just go Fire King Island, destroy a monster in your hand or on your field, add the Sacred Fire King Garunix, and immediately trigger it. Signet Mining with Gazelle is a good comparison. It works the exact same way. It's definitely a good card because you get a free summon of a level 8 and you get to destroy one in your deck, which obviously has synergy with this deck, right? Then we have Fire King High Avatar Kirin. This card seems really good to me, because Fire King is one of those decks that has this kind of, I don't want to say problem, because it's just these kind of combo strategies where you need something that pops and you need something that wants to get popped. It's kind of like how Dark World needs cards that want to be discarded and cards that discard at a good ratio, right? There's a lot of decks in the history of the game. Unchained is also a deck like this. That doesn't stop decks from being meta, but it's always nice to have cards that can do both, right? And here we have the little guy, the legendary Fire King Ponix, the level 1 fire monster, which is why this deck is indeed not a budget deck. I just want to make that clear. I think it is very unlikely that the good version of this deck is not going to be playing the Diabellstar package, because most of the old Fire King stuff is not really useful. You're going to struggle to fill the deck up to 40 cards without the Diabellstar cards even. This card is great for so many reasons. It summons itself from the hand as a free +1. The effect to search is on normal or special summon. So even if you open a bunch of Fire King cards but no way to destroy them, normal summoning this guy is going to get you to Fire King Island. On top of all that, if you ever destroy this thing, you just get it back to your hand in the next standby phase, which also means that you have pretty much insane follow-up, right? A lot of these cards have quick effects on your opponent's turn that pop your opponent's cards, give you follow-up. Pretty powerful cards all in all. Sanctuary of the Fire Kings. This card is phenomenal because if Fire King had any card that you could consider broken from back in the day, and that's Fire King Island. Basically a custom card for this deck, honestly. Destroy a monster in your hand or you control and add a Fire King from your deck to your hand, which is the perfect card for Fire Kings. It even has a secondary effect that can special summon a Fire Winged Beast from your hand. I assume you rarely use this effect. 2 things. Fire King Island, when it leaves the field zone and goes to the graveyard or is banished, it destroys all your monsters. Sometimes you can use this to your advantage, but it is also hard once per turn for one of the 2 effects, right? So if you play too many copies of these 2 together, which is why you see a lot of them only play like 2 and 2, you might draw multiples and then it doesn't seem very good, right? Sanctuary protects it. Sanctuary protects it by being destroyed, but if your opponent does something like Chaos Angel on it, you can't prevent that, right? It just says if it would be destroyed by card effect once. Sometimes that can be an out for your opponent, like Cosmic Cyclone, Chaos Angel, those kind of things, right? So those are the 4 best ones from the structure deck alongside the Xyz. The other 3 we're gonna read as well, but they are not seeing much play. Like here you can see they are not using these cards in their lists at all. We got the rank 8 Xyz, which I think you try to summon on your opponent's turn using Sanctuary. The main purpose of this card is, of course, you have Sanctuary of the Fire Kings, which is if your opponent special summons a monster, you can Xyz summon a Fire Xyz, and then you just Xyz summon this and blow up their board, right? Which is pretty sick. I believe Hanuman is like this one, but for spell and traps. That's not terrible. It's not like insane because it's not a starter, and it also doesn't have an effect when it is destroyed. It's not a very synergistic card, but it could be a one-of option. Then we have Fire King Sacred Immolation. The reason why I think sometimes you want to play other Fire King spell and traps is because Fire King Ponyx searches spell and traps, and if you already have your island, you might want to search something else, right? That's why there's usually one-ofs in this list. It's the one-of Circle, but I've also seen some people play this one. My takeaway so far is that the Fire King cards are strong. The OCG version is basically a mix. It does Fire King combos and it does Snake Eye combos, and I simply think before we get the Snake Eyes, we have to lean more into the Fire King combos and less into the Snake Eye combos is what I'm thinking. And this is one of those cards that could make your Fire King combos a little bit more threatening because this thing can blow up your opponent's monsters. It can also blow up back row, so it makes your back row matchups a lot stronger. It can dodge negation when you go second. The only thing is that you cannot use both effects in the same turn. Solidarity Strike of the Fire Kings, which I have not seen this card in any version. So this card is also very, very good. It's basically Sprite Red, and when it's destroyed, it summons one from the graveyard. It's like infinitely better than Hanuman. This is a list before Phantom Nightmare. That's looking more like it of what we can do with this deck in the TCG right now. If I'm looking at this list, what is like an end board that I would be aiming for? That's the tough thing to talk about because that's what I'm seeing here. The stuff is supposed to happen on your opponent's turn. Without Populace, it's not easy to build a good board. If you have just Ponyx, you can normal summon Ponyx, add Sanctuary, Sanctuary activate Fire King Island, Fire King Island effect, pop Ponyx, special summon Garunix, essentially, like search Garunix, add Garunix. And then you would pop Berong, so that next standby phase, you get this back, and then Berong adds this, right? So this is the 1-card Ponyx combo. Then on the opponent's turn, we can go Kirin pop Ponyx, and then when they special summon, you get to make this, right? That is the simplest 1-card combo you can have if you just open Ponyx, right? I feel like the combo versions might be a little awkward. My issue with this line is that it plays super hard into Nibiru. In some ways, you even have less follow-up than the other version. You do draw 2 cards with Heat Soul, but you don't get back your Ponyx. Nib is not real? Nah, Nib is real. Every Fire King combo dies to Nibiru unless it's Wanted plus Arvata. I mean, the thing is, you don't have to combo that hard. You can just settle for making most of the plays on your opponent's turn. Let's just try it. You know what? It's hard to evaluate just from looking at it. All right, you can play whatever you want. Just make sure it's a current meta deck. If you queue up Branded and call that a meta deck.
How's it going, YouTube?
God. I just set meta decks and they activate Dogmatica Matrix. Surely we're beating that, right? Honestly, if we lose this, we might end it right here. Right now, right here. Effect of the Ponyx. Ha! Bop. Bop. So Ponyx resolves. Grabs this. There's no way this is not game, by the way. Use this on res. Summon. It gains attack equal to half the destroyed monster. Pop horse from deck. Wait, which one is the horse? This one. So this is 39. This is 5. And then we do this. That's broken. Okay. All right, well, we have defeated Dogmatica. This deck ain't it. You know what I really hate is when people say something without ever thinking about it first. Like, oh my god, he lost a game against Rescue Ace without opening any hand traps. Like, your deck does the same shit, brother. It's like, yeah, okay, we lost 2 games, but if you go second with any deck against Vanadium, you open only 1 hand trap, you're gonna lose. Ooh, this is good. Fire King Island, pop Barong, grab Garunix, go from there. I could also start with the Sinful Spoil. I'm expecting them to have a decent amount of hand traps. They have a Fenrir in hand, and we know that they have the Super Heavy. Kirin to dodge the Fenrir. Let's go. Fire King Island, effect. They ash it. Okay. Well, that's annoying. Normal Barong. I don't want a normal Barong. It's so awkward. Can't you summon Ash, then Island Chainlink 1, Ash Chainlink 2? Oh, that I can do that. Not sure if it's good or not, but because we play the Snake Eye, we can do this. Chainlink 1, Island, Chainlink 2, Ash. So Island has to be Chainlink 1 because it's mandatory to destroy my own board, but Ash can now add Ponix. The problem is without Fire King Island resolving, I have no way of getting this dude out, right? I could have specialed Ponix. The only problem is, what do I add here? Sacred Immolation, probably? Sanctuary? I mean, I can't use Island anymore. I've already done it. If I add Sanctuary, they just go Fenrir, banish my Kirin, and then I have nothing, right? I feel like it has to be this. And then I activate Barong. So I probably just chain Immolation here, pop both of these dudes. This, and this. Destroy them. So I could now use Kirin to summon back a Fire King from the grave, but I don't know if that's the correct play, because if I summon back Barong, it won't trigger next turn. I'd rather search than have a Barong. I'd rather just pass. And then in standby, Ponix goes back to hand. And Barong, what does Barong add here? Another Kirin? Another Kirin, I guess. Well, Fenrir is a pain in the ass for this deck, I feel like. The Ash was big, though. Ash is a big deal on Fire King Island. If your Fire King Island gets ashed, you have a problem. Unless you have the Garunix already in hand, then it's fine, I guess. Because I didn't have the Garunix. Mera, well, that. We now know that they have the Super Heavy in hand and another Fenrir, because they showed us the Super Heavy, so we're fine. We're Gucci now. We probably get there. I think we win this one, because now I don't think they can prevent the island next turn, and the island kind of goes crazy. Okay, another Kirin. It's not the worst pickup, not the best. Normal summon Ponix, activate effect, grab Sanctuary up. The second Kirin actually is nice because we can now pop it in hand to revive, and then we still have a Kirin. Think I'll do that. Let's try it. Pop this, use this, target Barong, and oops, oh no, now they know I have a second one, the wrong one, unfortunate. This summons, and I pop the Fenrir, yeah, and then the Garunix activates. I mean, this is just game, isn't it? Is it game? 18, Avatar, effect, summon out this. So this is now 37. So this is 61. If I go summon Kirin from hand by destroying Ponix, should be game. All right, this is 36. So it's 2000 damage. Yeah, that's game. All right. All right. I want to play one more game because I actually do want to go first for once. Oh, you let me go first. Okay. I didn't expect that, but okay, nice. I do get to go first. Poggers, draw phase wanted. How many circle do you play? You would think it would be like 39 circles based on how often I've been drawing it, but the reality is it is just one. Do you just normal summon Ponix here, or do you go for the Diabellstar line? I mean, if I go for the Diabellstar line, I don't really know what I would send for now. I think I just go with Ponix. We get drolled, which fucks me up bad, because you can't use this. Duel is also really good against this deck. That's the annoying part, is if it was just about like grinding with the deck and shit like that, I'd be fine with it. The problem is that all of the fucking cards that people play right now are good against it. Everything, I don't even know why I'm activating this. It does nothing. Shifter is good against it. Droll is good against it. Nib is good against it. It's very frustrating. I was thinking if I can somehow set up Kirin to be a interruption. I can. If I just pass now. So what I can do is I can Kirin pop the Ponyx, then Ash them, and then I can circle pop Kirin, revive Ash, bring back Ponyx, pop a card. Theoretically, Ariana is fine. Good that we have Ash. I don't really see a reason for me to go Kirin on this thing, because even if they kill it by battle, it'll come back to my hand, right? What's the point? I don't need to Kirin it right now. Yeah, I think they can run over it. I'm fine with it, because this one doesn't have to be destroyed by card effect. Oh, Imperm, spot it. All right, so Ponyx goes back to hand. We go main phase 1. I think for the sake of playing around another copy of Droll and Lockbird, we should go Fire King Island first action. Frame 1, we go Fire King Island. Pop the Ponyx, add the Garunix, Chainlink 1. The Droll Chainlink 2 is okay. So summon Garunix, activate effect of Garunix. Pop one from the deck. I could pop Barong to get follow-up. I could pop... What else do I pop? Arvata revives, which does nothing because it can't search under Droll. Yeah, it's probably Barong. Pop Barong. And then we go battle. And we Ash Big Welcome. Hopefully that resolves. It does. Boom, boom. Okay. Main phase 2. And I guess we end? I mean, Droll hurts. Standby. Hold up. This comes back to hand. This adds another Garunix, I think. Kirin for the pop. We can pop a Kirin from the deck with the Garunix, right? I can go Kirin, pop Ponyx, summon Garunix, send another Kirin, revive, search, pop, right? Don't you play Hanuman? I do play Hanuman. Yep. End main 1. This is what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to go Kirin, pop Ponyx, so summon the Kirin. That triggers the Garunix. Special summon. Effect of Garunix to destroy Kirin from my deck, right? And then Kirin effect special summons Ponyx. Destroy 1. Search. Well, the talents would be live right now, but yeah. This deck seems to have a good matchup against backrow decks. You could say that, yeah. The lucky part here was basically that our deck didn't do much under Droll, but because their deck was relatively slow and we had Ash for the big welcome, this matchup was actually quite good for us because the grind game for this deck is kind of nice. The thing is, the more I'm playing this deck, the more I'm feeling like it's not bad, but it also isn't great because I feel like a good grind game is not really something special in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It's more like a necessity. If your deck doesn't have grind game, your deck is probably bad. All of the current 2023 meta decks have grind game, right? Like Unchained, Pearly, Rescue Ace, all those decks have like recurring value every turn, recycling resources, all that kind of stuff. So this deck having grind game is good, but it's not something that puts it above the rest, right? In that sense, I don't really see what would put it above the rest. Is the unfortunate thing. It has a cheap deck core. It is true. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if before Phantom Nightmare you need the Sinful Spoils cards. They honestly didn't feel 100% necessary. You can probably make a version of the deck that is very budget friendly. You have a lot of other cards at your disposal. There's a Nadir Servant version. Now you can easily play Prosperity if you want to, which is also a consistency card. You can play some more hand traps or whatever, and honestly, you're probably good to go for a budget option. The only thing that you can't really replace is probably like the Little Knight. I mean, if you don't have it, you can try get away without it. Maybe. I mean, we summoned it like once in 6 games now, so it's kind of whatever. The deck is out before Bologna. Exactly 2 days before YCS Bologna is when the structure deck releases. But I do think we're going to have to wait a little bit longer until the deck is actually a top tier deck. Because I think it could be. This combo is broken. Hold up. Okay, what is this? Ash into Populous. Populous is so busted, man. You see what the difference is? These two cards from Phantom Nightmare are missing, and they make literally one Snake Eye Ash this combo, right? The crazy part about this is also you can summon the IP Masquerena from your spell and trap zone in your opponent's turn, right? Because this thing says, during your opponent's turn, target a monster card that is treated as a continuous spell on the field and then special summon it to your field. This is a one card combo, which is insane to me. So this is why it's meta in the OCG right now. And that's what we're missing, right? Right now, you can't do any of that cool stuff. Doesn't Rescue Ace use those pieces better? They are playing both decks right now in the OCG. I think the difference between the Fire King deck and the Snake Eye deck is the Fire King deck plays more gas. The Rescue Ace deck plays more engine requirements. Like you have the one of Rescue, one of Alert, one of Headquarters, one of Contain, one of Extinguish. All those, right? That you don't really want to draw. The Fire King deck doesn't have many of those kind of cards. You have like the one of Circle. That's pretty much it. Nib goes hard against this deck. Nib does go hard against this deck. For some reason, the OCG does not really play Nib very much. As you can clearly see here. There's like some people side deck 2 nibs, which is awkward. This person main decked 1 nib and side decked the other, but for some reason they are not really that big into nib right now. Maybe because their format is relatively diverse and nib is not great against every deck, right? But they are siding it a decent amount. But main deck, no one is really playing it. Everyone is on super poly. I mean, yeah, this end board can get super polyed, right? I think the deck is viable before Phantom Nightmare. I don't think it's a bad deck by any means. The thing is, in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, I feel like every deck that comes out is somewhat viable, right? It's a cohesive strategy indeed. However, I think where it looks really, really impressive is after Phantom Nightmare. The combos after Phantom Nightmare feel absolutely incredible to me. Before Phantom Nightmare, for YCS Bologna, I don't think it's better than what we already have in the metagame. I don't think Fire King is stronger than Unchained, Pearly, Rescue Ace, those kind of decks. But especially if you find a way to build it without the Sinful Spoils cards, like a more down-to-earth grind game Fire King deck, you could be looking at a budget deck that can be like lower tier 2, higher tier 3 maybe. So it's like fine, but I wouldn't put higher hopes than that into it before the support. At least I'm not putting higher hopes into it. Like, this could have gone 2 ways today. The one way was I could have been incredibly impressed by the deck and could have been like, yeah, I'm gonna try this for YCS Bologna a little bit more. Or I could have been like, yeah, the cards are fine, but I don't think they're quite there yet, and I'm not going to spend that much time testing the deck for YCS Bologna moving forward. And I think it's a situation 2 angle, because time is limited until the YCS. I don't think I'm going to spend much time on, or any time on Fire King for the YCS, because I know what the cards do. I feel like if I was going to play against it, I would understand what's going on, and I think that is all that I'm going to do with Fire Kings until YCS Bologna. And I think that's a good way to release a structure deck, honestly. I don't think a structure deck should just be released and be an insane overpowered deck, but I think releasing structure decks like this one is exciting for the community because it gives people something to play with, something to try out, something that they can experiment with and maybe have some success with for sure. Like, it kind of feels like the Trap Trick structure as well. Like, it was released, it was a fine deck, you could play it, it was a budget option, and the Fire King deck feels somewhat like it. The most optimal version is probably going to play the Sinful Spoils card, so that's not going to be budget, but the deck seems like it's playable without them, honestly. That is kind of my conclusion on the Fire King deck. I'm glad we looked into it because I did have fun and the deck looks honestly pretty cool. If I play against it at YCS Bologna, I know what's going on, so that's always good. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was helpful. And that was the Fire King stream.